Hello there folks, wee Paddy from across the shuck, and I'm just going to start my wee video series on sharpening. And this is going to be a long drawn out sort of thing, not that I want to do it that way, but I think it's the only way of having a record of something is to do it slowly and piece by piece, because we all move at different paces when we're learning things or we're trying out new things. So if I do it in little small incremental bits, it's not so in your face and you've so much to remember and you have to keep going back to the video. I want at the end of this that you can take what I'm going to show you today and just go and do it. And that makes it much more enjoyable rather than too complicated. So, not that it's complicated, full stop, but. So, I was talking to you yesterday. This is the little clamp you get. And this is the stand I bought from Lansky. And it's a little pole that just screws in. I have this screwed onto a wooden base, and it just gives you a much better right, Stephen. There you are, you see? There's always complications. There we go. Right. That's that screwed down. And this little stand keeps this in place. And it means that I don't have to hold this. And you can do it, and I did it at first, just holding this in your hand and doing your sharpening. I did it when I first got it. That's the way I've done it, just by holding it. And it can be done. There's no problem. If you can't afford one of these at the start, no problem. None of these things that I'm going to show today are have-tos. You can get cheaper ones than this. There's a wee plastic one that costs under $10. This is only about, I don't know, $15 maybe. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe cheaper over in America. But that's the way that sits on now. So we don't start like that. What we do is there's a couple of different ways of putting knives on. People have been asking me questions already. You've got a full flat ground blade, like on this little Rat 2. It's a full flat ground, so there's no flat part on the top here, which a lot of people find difficult to put on one of these fixed sharpener systems. But it is very simple. You have the easy one, which is the blade on this little Kershaw. If you see, you've got a lovely, nice long flat on there. There's plenty of place to clip your clamp onto, and it holds it stable. It's not going to wobble. And that's what we're trying to stop, is the wobble, the blade movement, because that will affect the sharpening of the knife more than anything else. This can move, but it doesn't matter, because this is all connected in one piece. Yeah, this is all connected. So if this moves, this all moves with it. You know, you can take it off and move it. So it's keeping the blade in these little jaws so that it doesn't move. Now, the other thing that I think you need to remember before you start is, this is like painter's tape, right? And what I do is, you'll see in your knife here, what you've got to do is get a bit of painter's tape in round the bottom of it, so that there's none of the dust of the sharpening, and you just go around it. I'm just doing it roughly now. You just go around it there and make sure that there's no gaps where the dust from your sharpening, because you're actually taking off metal filings. The last thing you want is that to go into your sharpening system, especially if it's bearings or something. But even just to get into any sharpening system, it's no good. It really is no good. So wrap that up. The other place that you want to put a little bit of tape is on top of the knife, where you're going to put the clamp onto. And that stops the blade. Oh, wait, let's just get this off. That just stops it. There's a chance that I've really not noticed it marking, even if you don't put it on. But if it's a good knife especially, you need to put a bit on there. And that's just the other thing that does. That sticks on there, it peels off very easy, but it also gives a wee bit more grip and security to this for what is essentially just bare metal. So there's my full flat grind one, and I just want, let me show you. The flat one, we know exactly what to do, or most people do. You'll just put that in there, and I try to line up with the end of the surface there, okay? And you'll need a screwdriver. Let's just get that. And what you're trying to do is, if you're going to have to do this again, you want to be repetitive. Okay, so there's that. If you can see, that's along the flat of the knife. Now, to get it secure, it's this bit here, and you want to tighten this as tight as you can with your finger. And I mean, you know, tighten this as hard as you can. Now, that is not, it will move. He says it will move, yeah. That's why I use the paper tape, but it's tight. I'm going to give that another wee tighten. Now, what you can see on the side there is that's just about level all the way to the blade. That's important, so that when this goes on here, there we go. Now, depending on what angle you're going to do, will also depend on how far you need to come down towards the edge. Because what I do is I'll use the black felt tip on here, and then I do most of mine, nearly everything at 20 degrees. So I get it set there, take a couple of passes, check where it's hitting, and then I can move it backwards or forwards if I need to do that. And that way I'll get a much better grip. But you can see, like, that is sturdy. But when I have the tape on it, it just will not move at all. So it's worth just putting that wee bit of tape on it. So to undo it, it's just a case of undoing this and undoing that. So that is a simple form of doing it. When you've got a nice bit of flat, it makes it really easy to do. This is where the problem comes. So now this is my solution. I'm sure there's other people have got different ways of doing it. My goal when I'm putting this little pincer on, is I want them both to be like that on the blade. I want it to be full contact along the length of it, because that way it can't move. If you have it like that there, let me just show you. If you have it like that there and just close it, can you see the gaps either side? Oh, if you just have it, push it in and do it like that. I'm not really making a good job of showing you the gaps. Can you see the gaps either side? Yeah, I think you can there. You can see the gaps. Well, that'll allow that to move like that. It may not slip out, but it will move like that. And that will just give you a really bad edge. There's my darling wife just home. So the way to get round that, this red knob at the back, loosen it as much as you can, because we want to go at an angle now. We want this, whereas on a flat blade we wanted this to be the same equidistance, this time we want it to be at an angle, because that's the only way on a full flat grind, if you like, it goes from thick to thin, just straight downhill. So when we put this in, when we put that in like that, okay, so what I do is I squeeze them both together, yeah? Squeeze them both together, get my, I nearly got my knife there and used it improperly. Okay, right, now, there we go. That's screwed and there's no gaps either side. Can you see that? So now I have to get this bit up. It's very hard to show this in slow motion because I'm not, this is the first I've been showing it to somebody. That makes sense? Nah, it doesn't really. But we'll get there. Right, you must get these two closed together. Must do. And then what I should have done is screwed this bit up so that I have got an angle. There we are. Now, can you see that? It's not straight. I'm getting an angle on it so that... So I'm learning with you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've only just started using this system, but I'm learning with... Can you see now there is no gaps at the top? Both of it is on fully. This is not as even because the back end is higher than the front. So now I want to tighten the front down as well. Just give that a quick tighten. And now that ain't going to move. That is solid. So you're actually got a bit of an angle on the whole system. So put this on, hold this. I'll do that again because to me that is so important, and if you don't get that, it's not gonna work. Right, we'll take that off and we'll take this out. Okay, full flat grind. We put it into the sharpening system and we hold it where we want it to be. Hold them tight, and don't do the front one this time, do the back first. So you want to get this, and what you're doing is you're creating that V formation so that you'll see a difference in the grind, or not the grind, you'll see a difference in here. Can you see that now? I've done that's better done this. All right, let me do it first. Right, it's done up. I'll give the front one a tighten now. Now, can you see that? So this is actually coming down evenly on both sides. There's no gap, so this knife cannot move back and forward. If that knife can move back and forward when you hold it, it's not good enough, yeah? It has to be like that. It has to have that gap, that forward pressure that keeps it holding on. Whereas the flat, you want this even all the way across, and the full flat grind, you want the back higher. So I hope that's straightforward enough. So it'll sit there now, and we'll get onto the sharpening, and I'll find out where my sharpening is. And I still might have to move this back and forward. But you'll get to know your own knives where you've done them before. And you can even, whatever, you can put a wee mark somewhere on your knife that you'll know what to do. It depends if it's a user or not, and you want to put a mark or not on it. But that's up to you. Most of my knives are users. I'm not going to do anything with them other than use them. But that gives you an option. So that's what it is. Make sure that this is all taped off. Make sure you got a bit of tape on here, because it just makes it, it's not a slidey metal on metal. So that's important. When you're doing a grind that's got a flat piece up here, you hold it together and you tighten the front one up, and then you bring the back one up to try and get an equal line between the two. That's what you're looking for. When it's a full flat grind, you want it that shape. It has to be that shape so that these are flat on the surface, because the surface, you know, your surface of the knife is like that. So there's no point putting something flat on it to try and make it sit stable. So that's it. So there's no wobble either way, side to side. That's not what you want, because that will change the angle of your knife on this here when you're sharpening. And that's us. We're nearly ready to sharpen. Then it's the black marker, and I'll do that the next time. I'll do the black marker, and we'll start with we'll start sharpening. We'll see if we got the right angle, because if you don't have the right angle, if you've got a really obtuse off angle on it, it just takes forever and you're losing a lot of metal. And what you want to do every time is lose the least amount of metal you can. Now, the Lansky system, that cheaper version that I showed there, is fine up to about VG10. And that's as good as it'll really get. You know, once you get the D2, it's starting to be, well, you could do it, it'll just take a lot longer. So what I done, or what I would suggest to start with, if that's the system you're going to get, is get a medium grit. This is Lansky, a medium grit diamond stone, and it will then take you up where you can go up to you can go up to the 30 CV or the S35 VN. You can do them with this, because this will remove a bit of stock. There's a coarser one than this, that once you start to go up, you want to get a coarser one, but there's a full set on this, and I'm going to talk about that very shortly. They're just diamond ones. So I would get, if you're going to keep with the cheap version, I would buy one of these, because it's really good for stock removal, and it's of medium, so when you're doing basic knives, it takes off the stock quickly and improves the rate of sharpening. So I hope that was straightforward. If it's not, this is the time, because I'm just learning, and I'm learning how to describe and show things to people, which is not a natural thing for me. So forgive me if I forgot something or left something out. I'm going to put this up, see what you think about it, and then you can get back to me if there's something I haven't showed. But I'm only going to this point, okay? Let's not have a conversation about what's going to happen after it. It's just to get this plugged in. This system is great. it doesn't move. It's there. It allows that to sit there and you can move about. And all you're doing is lifting it over when you want to do the other side. It makes it so much easier than doing it by hand. Honestly, when I done it by hand, this hand had cramp by the end of it because you're actually holding for a long time on a pretty awkward, uneven sort of a base. So this is well worth it. Lansky, just get the base. There's a plastic base if you don't want it secured, but I just wanted it secured, and I just leave it put together. I take this out at the end of the day, and I have a box they all go in. There we go, and I can undo my knife now. There we go. I hope that was clear. It probably wasn't, but I'll learn and I'll get better. Let me know in the description down below. I know you will let me know that anyway. If you want me to clear anything up, we'll do it before we start the next one. And I think that's what I'd like to do. Clear up anything from the last before we go to the next. Okay, take care. Paddy's away for a cup of tea.